As a woman of color, you must have faced microaggressions around your gender and your race. How did you deal with it? And did it have an impact on your personal relationships?
Sometimes I've given some examples in the book, micro, macro, whatever the form of aggression. It was once they know that your ethnicity is not what they used to saying, they wouldn't rent you a house, or they treat your daughter in a way that's not okay. You went through all of that. But Rithika, I tell you, at the end of the day, I cannot define a community based on the 10% of bad experiences. Those experiences hurt like hell, especially when it happens to your kids. But you always have to look at the other 80 or 90% that were fantastic too. So at every point in time, my father used to say, assume positive intent. And I started to assume positive intent about those people who had a positive intent. And those that didn't have a positive intent, you know what? It's in my past. It was difficult when it happened, believe me. Now I can talk about it more philosophically. But when it happened, it was very, very difficult. But now I'm saying it was such a small portion of bad experiences. I don't want to define the whole community based on that.
What would you consider to be your legacy, your best achievement, and also your toughest challenge?
My kids, my family, my biggest achievement, through everything. The fact that I managed to juggle everything and hold it together is no mean accomplishment. And it was also my toughest challenge because it's only 24 hours in a day. As I said in the book, Rithika, the biological clock and the career clock are completely in conflict with each other. And when you're trying to really, really, really do a good job, you're studying all the time, you're working hard, and people look at you and go, do you ever take a break? And Mom, and one of my daughters would say, Mom, why do you have homework every day at home? It's in retrospect, it's very painful to hear all these statements. So I think that as I look back into my life, those were all my big accomplishments. They were filled with challenges, filled with juggling acts, lots of juggling I did all the time. I never really took time for myself or just chilled. I was always on the go. Maybe I just don't know how to do it, Rithika. I am wired a certain way, so I could be the problem myself, or I could just be myself. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm learning now how to just chill a bit. And if I want to take a walk, take a walk. Nothing stops you. Just take the damn walk. So it's good for you to take a walk. So I'm learning how to just slow down a bit, and reflect on things that need to be changed. How can you contribute to it? Thinking about how to give back to India. I've been doing a lot of stuff, rebuilding all the science labs in my school and college and my husband's school, and really trying to give back in profound ways, as I do here in the US. But now with the book, how does one take something like an Anganwadi system and create Anganwadi 4.0, which is what's in rural areas as a community center for childcare and for women's counseling? How do we create a whole new system that can help women in rural areas? So I have lots of ideas. So I'm thinking through all of that.
That's not really chilling. You still are working.
Well, it's a nice way of working because it's working on stuff that you feel deep in your heart. Deep in your heart.
Was there a time when you wondered if it was worth it? And how did you deal with it?
We're all wired a certain way. And if you take on a challenge, you've got to see the challenge through. And yes, there was, I think, a couple of times when my kids would say, we missed you, didn't come to this event or this event. And I'd say, okay, guys, I think I'll just quit and stay home. And immediately they'd go, oh, no, Mom, you worked so hard to get you, don't quit. Or other one would say, I wish there were two moms, one that worked and one stayed at home. But if you had to choose, just keep doing what you're doing, Mom. So my daughters never, ever pushed me to quit. My husband never did. He always supported me to keep working because he said, look, that's who you are. Why are we trying to change you? And, he made a lot of sacrifices for me along the way. So I've got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, he's phenomenal.
What advice do you have for women who might not have anywhere as supportive as he was during your career? What would you say to them?
You have to ask yourself why you're getting married and what your hopes and dreams are. If your hopes and dreams are to have a career and remain in paid work and really move forward while also having kids, if you don't have a supportive spouse, it's not going to work. Even without kids, having a supportive spouse is not going to work if you want to move ahead in your career and work hard and make all the trade-offs. So you have to choose your spouse correctly. That's a challenge by itself. And both of you have to commit to equality in the marriage. If you just say, well, he's the boss, I'm there and I will slot my career in at any free time, then you've got to live with all the consequences that come with that. Okay, but right off the bat, you both agree that this is what your hopes and dreams are, then you've got a fighting chance to keep your job and move it forward. I think in my case, it was also the parents and the in-laws that sort of leaned in and said, just keep working, don't worry about it. My in-laws were fantastic. My parents were always that way. My in-laws were also fantastic. So the combination is what worked. I understand that's a bit of a lottery, but there are many, many more people of my generation who are now parents and in-laws, right? We want the best for our kids. We want them to dream. We want them to fly. So I think it's important that my generation now supports the young ones to do whatever they want to do.
You consider a role in politics?
No.
If I were to rephrase it, when you were being quoted by both GE and Pepsi, and the Pepsi chief came to you and said, our need for you is more than GE's. Someone from politics came to you and said, our need for you is more, because that's where you can make an impact in terms of legislation. What would you be?
And I will help outside the political scene, but not in politics. I'm just not good at it. Politics requires a skill, requires diplomacy, requires patience. I don't have any of those. I'm a doer. I'm not working through multiple agendas and all. Just there are people who do it very well. So I'll work behind the scenes, provide the work product, and you can go and work within the politics.
A couple of lighthearted questions to wrap up.
Okay.
Cricket or American football, American baseball?
When I go to India or watch cricket in the Middle East, it's cricket. But when I'm in the US, it's the Yankees, not American baseball, the Yankees, and then watching select football teams. I love those games.
Okay. Toughest role so far as mom, daughter, CEO, or wife?
Wife was probably the easiest because of the supporting spouse. There are times when the CEO job was impossible. There are times when being the mom was impossible because you did nothing right. And so I'd say different points in time, different jobs are tough. There isn't uniformly one job tough for the other. There are times when I'd say, oh, it's much easier to be a mom than a CEO. Other times I'd say, forget this mom stuff, it's strictly for the birds. I'd take a CEO any day. So again, it's time of the situation.
South Indian breakfast or Quaker oats?
Oh, I got to have my South Indian breakfast.
Idli?
Occasionally my Quaker oats. I have it almost every other day, yeah.
The India you grew up in or the India now?
The India I grew up in, because that's where I remember continuously what it was. I think the India I grew up in is more because of what I mentioned in the book in the first chapter about all the cousins that would come home every summer. I mean, the house is filled with 15 or 20 cousins and aunts and uncles. And there's noise all the time and people coming in and out of the house at every hour of the day. There's a buzz all the time. It's a whole different ball.
Final question. Your mom, how is she doing now?
Doing well. She's in New York with my brother.
Okay.
She's wonderful. Still checks on me 3-4 times a day. Did Indra have lunch? Did she have breakfast? Did she eat? Did she okay? If I don't call her 3 times a day, she'll go, why didn't you call me? Have you forgotten me? Still the same. She's wonderful.
I love that line where you said, where you narrate what she told you, which is that you need to do this. This is your duty, which was a complete turnaround from when you were being named as
totally.
CEO. She said,
Totally.
"No, I'm going to
You're
call
right.
him back." That made me laugh out loud when I was reading the book. That was really funny.
No, that's mom. That's mom. Even this weekend when I was with her, she said, I hope you're doing something productive from this book. Not just writing a book. I said, Mom, don't worry about it. I am doing it. Yeah.
How do you contrast your relationship with her and that of your daughter?
My kids love me dearly. I mean, they can't do without mom. I think the difference is that we don't argue much with my mother. We're very respectful of her. I mean, we argue, but not, we're still very respectful of her. My kids adore me, but at times they can argue. Oh, tough. They're more modern kids. You try to tell them Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam, they say, what does that mean? Okay. So little differences like that. At the core, they see the role models with their grandmothers and the children and the interaction. They see my husband being the most unbelievable son, taking care of his mother. And they know that they have to pay it forward too. Mm-hmm. I remind them, I said, don't forget your parents as you grow up. We get older, they never forget.